Thank you so much to all of you for joining us this morning for this Parliament for Academic Librarians online training session. So appearing now, there will be some photos of us on your screen. I'm Laura, I'm on the left there. I'm a Knowledge Exchange Manager in the Knowledge Exchange Unit here at Parliament. The role of the Knowledge Exchange Unit is to support and strengthen the exchange of information and expertise between Parliament and the research community. There are a few ways in which we do that. So we are a point of contact for anyone from the research sector who would like to know more about and engage with Parliament. We run training like the session today, and we run an academic fellowship scheme as well. We provide lots of online resources and we promote opportunities for researchers to work with Parliament. I'm joined today by my colleagues from the House of Commons Library, Anne-Lise Harding, who is co-presenting with me, and our colleague Maria Lalich, who will be answering some of your questions today. And I'm now going to hand over to Anne-Lise so that she can introduce herself as well.
So I'm Anne-Lise, I'm Senior Liaison Librarian at the House of Commons Library. And in my role, I support the work of both the library and select committees by focusing on liaison, training and outreach. So I think I'm going to hand over back to Laura now to get the session started.
We are going to begin by talking about what Parliament is and look at the difference between Parliament and government. Then we're going to explore who uses research at Parliament, and here we will talk especially about POST, the Parliamentary Office of Science and Technology. We will then dive into finding out more about the House of Commons Library and how, as academic librarians, you can support your institution's engagement with Parliament and with the House of Commons Library. We'll then look at the House of Lords Library and how that library works. And we will finish today with how you can stay in touch with us in the Knowledge Exchange Unit and with the House of Commons Library as well. In the Knowledge Exchange Unit, we work closely with knowledge mobilisers, who are people in roles such as university knowledge exchange staff, impact officers or policy managers, and also policy-focused intermediaries in organisations like professional bodies or learning societies, for example. We work really closely with these knowledge mobilisers, and we're doing that to communicate key opportunities and information about engaging with Parliament, to support researcher engagement, and to understand the priorities, needs and challenges of the research sector. We also understand that as academic librarians, you often play key knowledge mobilisation roles in supporting the academics you work with to enhance and share their research. We're running this event today as we understand that as academic librarians, you play these really important roles in knowledge mobilisation and in supporting academics in their parliamentary engagement and enhancing the academic research flowing from your institution into Parliament. We know that as academic librarians, you are often uniquely placed to support researchers to extend the impact of their research. One key way that researchers can extend the impact of their research is through engaging with Parliament. And amongst other things, this can allow them to support parliamentarians in their work of scrutinising the government, shaping and changing policy and the policy agenda, and having demonstrable research impact. So with all of that in mind, we'll begin. So what is Parliament? You have three pictures on your screens now showing the three different parts of Parliament: MPs sitting in the House of Commons, peers sitting in the House of Lords, and a picture of the monarch, the Queen. The House of Commons is where our elected MPs sit. The House of Lords is mainly appointed. It's made up of peers or members of the House of Lords who have expertise in lots of different areas, including law, medicine, politics, charity sector work, business, and many others. The Queen signs off every law that is passed, giving it royal assent. And she also opens Parliament each year as well at a state opening. This happened most recently last week when the Queen opened Parliament and a new parliamentary session started. The Queen's role is mainly ceremonial, and so it won't be a big focus of our session today. On your screen now is a large picture of the Houses of Parliament taken across the River Thames. We will take this as our cue to look closely at what Parliament does. So this slide outlines the 5 core functions of Parliament. Parliament represents the people. It's where our MPs go to represent the constituencies or the areas for which they have been elected. It checks and challenges the work of government through scrutiny. And by scrutiny, we mean the processes by which Parliament holds the government to account. Parliament makes and changes laws through legislation. We're not going to talk too much about legislation today as we've got so much to cover, but if you do have any questions about the legislative process, you can always get in touch with us and we're happy to send you more information on how research feeds into legislation. Parliament debates the important issues of the day. MPs or members of the House of Lords can raise a debate in Parliament and get a response from the government. And Parliament checks and approves government spending, meaning the government needs to get tax and budget proposals approved by Parliament before those can be enacted. Parliament is using academic research to inform its work in scrutiny, in legislation and in debate, and we're going to find out a bit more about this later. Now coming up on your screen is an image of the black front door with the white number of 10 Downing Street, where the Prime Minister lives. This makes it a good moment to pause and think about what is the UK government. So here is a carefully crafted definition. It is the party or parties who can command the confidence of the House of Commons who form the government. You'll notice there that word confidence. The government needs to demonstrate that they have the confidence of a majority of our elected representatives, and that is what gives them the power or the mandate to be in government. That is the theory of it. Generally, this translates into having a majority of MPs or being able to win votes in the House of Commons. What does the government do? The government runs public departments, so government departments such as the Home Office, Department for Transport, Department for Education, that kind of thing, and also public services like the NHS. And it proposes new laws to Parliament, and the government is accountable back to Parliament. So hopefully this shows you that government and Parliament are not the same thing. It can be useful to hold in your mind that Parliament, pictured on the left-hand side of your screen, is in Westminster, and it's all MPs, all members of the House of Lords and the monarch, whereas government is in Whitehall. It's just down the road, represented on this slide by the picture of the road sign on the right-hand slide. So the government is all MPs and the government is some MPs and some members of the House of Lords, and they've been chosen by the Prime Minister to be ministers and to run government departments. And as part of that, they'll decide on spending and they'll decide on policies for those departments, and they're accountable back to Parliament. So I know that I'm really labouring this distinction between Parliament and government, and that's just because it's important to understand the difference between these institutions, because when you or the researchers you work with are working with them, you're likely to take a slightly different role or a slightly different approach depending on which institution you're working with. So appearing on your screen in a moment, there is a table which takes you through the different parts of Parliament that use research. Looking at the top of the table, we might call these the slightly more formal parts of Parliament that use research. To pick out a few, we've got POST, the Parliamentary Office of Science and Technology. We've got the House of Commons Library and the House of Lords Library, and they all use research. We've got House of Commons Select Committees, House of Lords Select Committees, and some joint select committees as well. And they have MPs and members of the House of Lords sitting on them in those joint select committees. And parts of the legislative process also use research. Some of these parts of Parliament are in green on this slide. That means it's a House of Commons service. Some of them are in red, and that means it's a House of Lords service. And where there are purple boxes, those services are bicameral, which means that they work for and support both Houses of Parliament. You'll see here on this slide select committees. Both Houses of Parliament have select committees, and as I just said, there are those joint select committees between the Lords and the Commons as well. Select committees check and report on areas ranging from the work of government departments to cross-cutting areas like public accounts, and they may also focus on specific issues. Lots of select committee inquiries take submissions of written evidence, and anyone could submit evidence to these inquiries. Inquiries may also hear oral evidence. The results of these inquiries are public, and many of them require a response from the government. There is a lot more to say about select committees. However, in the interest of time today, we are mostly going to stick to the research and information services in Parliament, particularly POST and the libraries. If you would like to find out more about select committees, we have a recording of a training session about how to work with them directly, which is just over half an hour long, and you can watch that at a time that works well for you. Looking again at this slide, we've got a floating box appearing now down at the bottom of the slide. And this is the more informal or political side of who uses research at Parliament. It includes individual MPs and peers and their researchers. And those researchers are people who work for the MPs and peers and support them to do that parliamentary work. You can see here that all party parliamentary groups also use research. These are informal groups of MPs and members of the House of Lords, and they're set up by the members for the members on whichever topics those members would like to have a group about. These groups allow MPs and peers to develop their knowledge on a particular topic along with other members who are also interested, and to show that they are interested in that topic as well. So we are now going to take you on a whistle-stop tour through some of these parts of Parliament, how they use research, and some tips on how you and the researchers you work with can get involved with Parliament, including, of course, the House of Commons Library, where we will pause and give you some more detail. For now, though, we are going to begin with POST. POST is the Parliamentary Office of Science and Technology. POST is also probably the closest bridge between research and Parliament. Its role is to support and advance the use of research evidence in parliamentary scrutiny and in debate. POST has 4 sections, so social sciences, energy and environment, digital and physical sciences, and biology and health. And POST covers a really wide range of areas, and it works in an interdisciplinary way. One of the main products POST produces is a POST note. This is a comprehensive, impartial, and evidence 4-page briefing on a particular topic. POST notes review the current research landscape, and they're drawing together different stakeholders' perspectives when they do that. POST notes take around 3 months to produce, and for a POST note, the POST team are considering what are the next big, detailed topics that are going to be coming across the parliamentary agenda in the next year or so. And so what MPs and peers are going to need a really robust evidence synthesis or evidence briefing on. POST notes are based on a literature review and interviews with between 20 and 30 stakeholders, and they are peer reviewed before they're published. POST also publishes something called a POST brief, and POST briefs are advice and evidence syntheses on particular topics, and through which they allow POST also to be reactive to what is happening right now. POST also runs academic fellowship schemes, and that might be of interest to the researchers that you work with or to yourselves. So there is a programme of PhD fellowships for PhD students to come and work either with POST or with another team at Parliament. And we in the Knowledge Exchange Unit are based in POST, and we also run fellowships which are open both to researchers later in their careers and those in knowledge mobilisation roles, including academic librarians. There's a lot more information about these opportunities online. POST also compiles and draws on expert databases in its work. Through this, POST seek experts to sign up to databases or to add research to repositories where people have areas of expertise, so do keep an eye out for those. To give you an example of this, there is Parliament's COVID-19 research repository, and for a little bit of background on it, POST ran a survey in April last year, and as a result of that, they published syntheses about the future effects of COVID-19 in a range of policy areas. Following on from that, POST then took the insights from that survey and developed the UK Parliament's first areas of research interest, or ARIs. Areas of research interest are lists of policy issues or questions, and they're a way for an organisation to express an interest in seeing more research evidence in a certain topic. These UK Parliament COVID-19 ARIs are publicly available. Experts have been invited to add current or future research relating to these areas of research interest to a repository that may be used to inform the work of UK Parliament in the future. And so let's think now about how else librarians and researchers can get involved with the Parliamentary Office of Science and Technology. One really good way that you can do this is to sign up to the POST mailing list. If you're on Twitter, that's another great option. You can follow POST there. The handle on Twitter is @post_UK. That means that when POST announces the next topic they'll be writing briefings on, if you're a member of the mailing list, you can have a look and see whether it's something that you or the researchers you work with have evidence that you could feed into that. If there's a relevant POST note, researchers can offer to contribute in different ways. So they might say they will be happy to be interviewed for the post note. They might say they'd be happy to send in a bit of relevance that they have, or they can offer to peer review the post note before it's published as well. It's also possible to suggest a topic for a post note by getting in touch with the post team and making that suggestion to them. That will then inform the thinking of post staff when they're thinking about what issues to put before their board to decide on what they'll be writing about in the future. And you can also introduce your institutional research centre to the relevant section of post by emailing post@parliament.uk. That email address is in the slide deck just there, and you'll have a copy of these slides after the session as well. And finally, if you notice any post events coming up that will be of interest for you or the academics you work with to attend, then you can register for those. There's details of post events and the topics that they're on the post website, and the events are running online on the time being. So do have a look there if you're interested in finding out more. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Anne-Lise to talk to you about the House of Commons Library.
Thank you, Laura. Let's now have a look at the House of Commons Library. The library itself is located in the Palace of Westminster, just outside the House of Commons chamber. It's for members of Parliament exclusively. You can see on your screen there are two pictures from the Palace Library, and you can see the gorgeous large green leather armchairs and desks. They are all originals from the 19th century. The library and much of its collection burned down in 1834, so the current reading rooms were opened in 1852 and are still in use to this day. The first ever House of Commons librarian was appointed in 1818. This library houses our lending collection, and we've got about 228,000 items. The collection focuses on parliamentary needs and MPs' requests. On the House of Commons Library website, you can actually find a report detailing our lending figures and also see what MPs read if you'd like to have a nose. The library also has a staffed inquiry desk, and that's where we receive and support queries from MPs. And just to give you an idea of the scale, in 2019, we answered 20,800 requests from MPs for information. As well as the beautiful library, which you can see on the screen, the main function of the department since 1946 is to provide a research and information service to members and their staff. The official name of the library inside the House is RNI, and that stands for Research and Information, even though between us in Parliament we just call it the library. And the House of Commons Library primary mission is to provide an impartial information service. That means that we receive requests for research from across the political spectrum, and we give an identical service to all of our customers in order to facilitate political scrutiny, as well as promoting a healthy democracy. So to summarize the library's function, it publishes research and analysis on legislation and policy, as well as statistics in order to support members in performing the scrutiny role. It also answers information requests from constituencies, and it conducts bespoke analysis to support them. And just like a traditional library service, we provide book, journals, databases, workspaces, as well as offering training and talks. To perform this role and to remain completely impartial, the House of Commons Library is made up of several departments. There are around 180 staff, and that ranges from researchers, librarians, indexers, statisticians, and more. So I will only highlight a few. The Library Services section, for example, operates the members' library. It oversees the collections and provides training. There are also teams responsible for indexing all parliamentary content, customer services, communications, as well as a department that focuses on restoration and renewal, and that is the process of restorative work to the Palace of Westminster. Research is mostly carried out by the research sections, which are small teams of subject specialists. There are around 80 of them. The research section are divided in policy areas, and they cover a wide range of subjects that can go from bees, the arts, coal, family law, or winter fuel payments. And we have an internal directory to find out exactly who covers what. And this expertise that allows the library to give precise and in-depth answers to queries. So the range of topics that we have is business and transport, economic policy and statistics, home affairs, international affairs and defence, Parliament and Constitution Centre, science and environment, social and general statistics, social policy, and last but not least, Brexit. And here we have another beautiful picture of the Palace Library with its floor-to-ceiling shelves. It really is a librarian's dream. In order to provide an outstanding and impartial service, the House of Commons Library relies heavily on the most up-to-date knowledge and information, and that ranges from generalist to specialist. Subject specialists in the library use a broad range of research and information. They use expert databases, they use academic research, government publications, charity reports, NGO studies, news articles, and that goes from national news down to local press, as well as knowledge bases. The library also relies on internal parliamentary and government resources. Parliamentary questions, for example, are a great source to look back on the government's position on a particular topic, or how a minister answered a specific questions 2 weeks ago. We also have access to historical materials, so we can find out what the position on an issue was in the 1950s, for example. And we also use our own knowledge base of previous inquiries to the House of Commons Library, so we can check what previous answers we gave to similar questions. So we're now going to go over to Maria, who's been looking at some of your questions that you have been sending in and to answer some of them. So over to you, Maria.
A question that was asked, what is the difference between Post research and the House of Commons and House of Lords research? The Post colleagues conduct their research in a slightly different manner. They interview 20 to 30 stakeholders, so ultimately conducting the primary research. The House of Commons Library deal with information that is publicly available. We don't interview stakeholders for our research. Every now and again, we may have some conversations with academics, but that's probably as far as it goes. So I hope that answers your question. If you need any more information, do contact us and we should be able to talk to you a little bit more in depth. Another question is, what databases do we use? We've got quite a range of databases. Our big ones are Nexus Libraries, Westlaw. We use encyclopedias online. We use all sorts of things. So if you're interested again in sort of more details or any particular databases you're interested in, just email me and I'll be able to talk a little bit more about that. Will you give us some examples of the inquiries you receive and how you search for responding on those? We're not exactly in a position to sort of provide examples of inquiries because they are confidential and we are covered by confidentiality. But how we search for responding, as I said, you know, we deal with publicly available research. We use databases that I've mentioned already. It really depends on an inquiry. We do Google quite a fair bit. Can members of the public access library catalogue? No, members of the public cannot access the library catalogue. All our services are for members of Parliament, but members of the public can engage with the library via our website. So all our research is available online.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you for all of your questions. Now we're going to have a look at the research coming out of the library, and you will be interested in this from listening to your questions. Our research products are published to support the work of members of Parliament online, and they help them scrutinise the government and support policy making as well. All of this publicly funded research is available to the public through the Open Parliament licence. So we have different types of research to suit the audience, the nature of the work of MPs, or the topic. We have insights to start with. They are quick read articles on current issues. They're published in line with topical events, and they provide need to know information on a local and global topic. Then we have research briefings. They provide in-depth analysis of bills, legislation, policy and topical issues. They are very in-depth and they've got a lot of references as well. Debate packs are produced in relation to debates taking place in the Commons Chamber or in Westminster Hall. And the debate pack contains background information, statistic, parliamentary and press material, as well as suggested further reading. Then we have data tools and resources, and these are data sets and interactive dashboards on a range of topics. It ranges from constituency dashboards to headline statistics. We also have parliamentary election data, as well as the latest figures on the economy. Then we have constituency casework articles, and those are FAQs and quick explainers to help caseworkers with a range of constituent queries. And finally, we tried something new, so we have podcast. And our first series offers an impartial take on issues in the UK. Each episode tackles a different topic, including housing, devolution in Northern Ireland, defence equipment, universal credit, and more. All of this material really provides a great starting point for students, for academics, for researchers, either at the start of their research or just to gauge what is being discussed and debated in Parliament at the moment. Notice in the corner of the slide we have the inquiry desks in the Palace Library. There are two desks facing each other, and this is where MPs can place their inquiries with the library or they can borrow items from. As librarians, you are in a critical position to facilitate engagement with Parliament, and there are several ways you can use the House of Commons Library to support researchers and allow them to engage with Parliament. You can make them aware of our research products to see what Parliament is currently discussing or areas of interest that have come up from our horizon scanning or in response to constituency queries, for example. Additionally, you can make them aware of our data dashboards. They are an easy way to find aggregated data from different sources. You can also encourage sign up, and you can sign up yourselves as well to our research alerts. The research alerts are sent by email every time a new piece of research is published on the website. You can choose a policy area and then you will get an email notification straight away. Most of our specialists are on Twitter, and this is a great way to get in touch with them and follow their work. Additionally, you can follow the House of Commons Library Twitter account for all of our latest news. Where academics have research or other information that could benefit an existing library briefing, they can email us and name the briefing. And whilst we're not always able to engage in discussions about the content of the research, we will always carefully consider and correct any factual errors. Parliament sometimes put out calls for experts to sign up to expert databases for when it's looking for expertise on a particular area, as Laura mentioned earlier with the post-COVID-19 research repository, for example. And finally, researchers can also introduce themselves and their research expertise to the Knowledge Exchange Unit, who can pass the introduction to the relevant subject specialist in the library. They can aim for around 250 words introducing themselves and their research. And now we're going to have a look at Parliamentary Search. Parliamentary Search allows you to search all parliamentary material. This is really helpful if you want to track engagement of the school or the faculty you support, or know where the research has been used in Parliament, or just to see what parliamentary engagement looks like. So we will have a very quick look at it right now. So this is Parliamentary Search, and Parliamentary Search can be used to search for parliamentary questions, debates, and other Hansard content. It also contains deposited papers and briefing papers published by the Commons and the Lords Library, as well as post. It includes current and historical material. You can search by a single criterion or a combination of those factors. So all of these words is a straightforward keyword search. This phrase will look for words in a particular order, one or more of these words will apply the Boolean operator or, and none of these words will apply the not operator. You can choose anywhere. You can choose in the title or in the summary if you're looking for documents with summaries such as committee reports or library briefings, for example. The filters will allow you to refine further. You can filter by house. You can also filter by type of parliamentary material. So if you know what you're looking for, you can just select one of these, or you can just not select it, or you can just select them all. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go through all of these definitions, but there is a parliamentary glossary that we will send you a link for that will really help you. You can also refine by member of parliament. You can refine by subject. The subject box will populate for you with our own indexing terms. If you have a reference number, you can just type it in the box as well. And then finally, you can refine either by date using the calendar function or by parliamentary session. Sorry. So I'm going to show you an example. So I will look for the University of Edinburgh, which is a challenge because I can never spell it correctly. And then we will choose in the House of Commons and have a look if they've been mentioned in parliamentary committees. And then for good measure, I will select the last 4 parliamentary sessions and search. And here we go. So like this, we can see every time the university has been mentioned in select committee material. Note that the results are in relevance order. You can adjust the dates in the filters.
We are now going to move on to look at another area of Parliament. As you may know, there are 2 libraries in Parliament, the House of Commons Library and the House of Lords Library as well. Although the focus of today's session is the House of Commons Library, we also wanted to introduce you to the House of Lords Library as it's another really excellent resource. The House of Lords Library provides impartial research and information services to members of the House of Lords, to their staff and to staff of the House as well. It works to equip members and others with impartial, authoritative and timely information to help them to work effectively, from book requests and fact-finding inquiries to putting together bespoke briefings on more complex policy issues. It has around 50 staff, which makes it smaller than the House of Commons Library, and around a third of those staff work part-time. Staff are based in 3 main teams. We've got the information management team, the service development team and the research team. And the library has an excellent website you can look at to find out more about their work as well. The link is just up there on the slide if you'd like to find out more after the session. So we'll focus in for one moment on one team in the House of Lords Library, the research team. The research team has around 15 members of staff, a majority of whom are either researchers or senior researchers. The team operates a confidential and bespoke research inquiry service for use by members and others. It also publishes briefings to cover all major items of business considered in the Lords, as well as on topical issues and on the House of Lords itself. Briefings take the form of either short web-based articles or more in-depth pieces which tend to come in a PDF format. And you can find all of these on the library's website. Briefings for business are a major focus of the work of the Lords Library. They are circulated to all members listed to participate in a debate, and that allows them to get a really good grounding in the subject at hand before they take part in that debate. Turnaround times can be tight, and work is often needed to be produced within a matter of days in many cases. To ensure the flexibility needed for that close focus on business, the team works on a generalist researcher model. So many of the researchers work on the full range of policy areas, although 2 members of staff have specialisms. Those are in law and economics, respectively, and they can pick up work in those areas as needed. The focus on house business can limit how often the research team are able to make proactive contact with academic specialists. However, the team are open to knowing about resources that could be useful for briefing and inquiry work, such as, for example, websites or blogs. and they'll use those to quickly source authoritative, accessible information on issues where relevant. The team will keep a record of those kinds of resources to inform their briefing and inquiry work where they're relevant to them. And staff in the research team can also make use, of course, of post networks and consult with colleagues in the House of Commons Library when required to. Now we're going to go back over to Maria to answer a few more of your questions. So I'll pass back over to you, Maria.
Thank you, Laura. There is a number of questions on the parliamentary search that Anne-Lise just shown. Can we search within the search engine you show? Yes, parliamentary search is available online, so you can access it via Parliamentary Library website or via the House of Commons website. What is the range of Parliament search? How far back does it go? The parliamentary search that Anne-Lise has shown you goes back to, I think, the 90s, but there is another site that is available about historic Hansard, so which you can just find by Googling. If you Google historic Hansard, you should be able to find it. Do draw information from other countries in other languages to produce any of the research products. Well, this is an interesting one. This is something that we grapple with quite a fair bit, because at times we are asked for comparisons with various countries. In my section, which is Home Affairs section, we on occasion asked to compare legislation, say in Australia and Britain, or the US and Britain, on media resources. So that one is probably not a difficult one, because there's sort of things are available, that information is available in English, so it's a little bit easier. So, but we do draw on the research done in other countries. Obviously, if we're looking for legislation in Australia, we would look for Australian research done on a particular topic. How do we deal with research that's published in other languages? That is slightly more complicated. We have access to interparliamentary research when we are able to send questions in, and hopefully one of the researchers from other parliamentary libraries, European parliamentary libraries, will be able to pick up. We also have people who speak quite fluent various languages, but that becomes difficult because as we are not authorized translators or interpreters, so we do have to put a caveat saying this was translated by, me, for example, not that I would, yeah, so because it obviously cannot be authorized, it's not peer reviewed, it's just somebody's translation. So I hope that answers your question. Who oversees funding for the library? The House of Commons Library funding is overseen by the House of Commons Commission. Okay, that's all from me for now.
Thank you so much, Maria, and thank you all so much as well for the questions you have submitted to us today. So for the final part of our session today, we wanted to highlight some more ways to stay in touch with us in the Knowledge Exchange Unit and with the House of Commons Library. So we're going to talk now about our informal network of knowledge mobilisers. As we mentioned before, academic librarians are knowledge mobilisers, and as such are in a brilliant place to share with researchers how best to engage with Parliament. We in the Knowledge Exchange Unit run an informal knowledge mobilisers network, and as we said earlier, this is for people including university staff working in knowledge exchange, in policy, perhaps working in impact, or working as academic librarians. It also includes people who are perhaps working in policy-focused roles in organisations like learned societies, for example, too. We work with this network in the Knowledge Exchange Unit, as we touched on earlier, to support researcher engagement, communicate key opportunities and information about engaging with Parliament, and to understand the priorities and the needs and the challenges of the research sector as well. And we currently send a weekly roundup of opportunities to engage with Parliament as a researcher to this network of knowledge mobilisers. If you would like to join this network, we would absolutely love to have you. In order to join it, we'd ask you to email us on keu@parliament.uk, so keu@parliament.uk, and the email address is up there on the slide to let us know that you'd like to join. And we just need your title, your name, your job title, your institution, and your contact details, and we'd be delighted to add you to that network. And I'm just going to pass you back over now to Anne-Lise.
And here is another network as well that you can join. The House of Commons Library our team have plans to develop a network specifically for academic librarians to share good practice and guidance around theme sessions. And it could be about collection management, information literacy, cataloging, or metadata. It's all very open at the moment. Academic librarians and parliamentary librarians would come together to present and discuss twice a year online in a very informal way. This network is a great opportunity for professional development for yourself as academic librarians, and it also provides you with an insight into the work of libraries in the government sector. And just to let you know that we also regularly organise open days where you can get a tour of the House of Commons library that you saw on the slides today. So that's coming soon as well. And finally, we're very aware that we've given you so much information, so many sites to look at, so many emails to send us as well. So before we go away, we wanted to have a recap of your next steps. Sign up to the post mailing lists and the House of Commons Library research alerts. Familiarise yourself with the House of Commons Library, the House of Commons Library website, the House of Laws website, as well as Parliamentary Search. Explore the resources on the Knowledge Exchange Unit's web hub. If you're on Twitter, you can follow Post, the Knowledge Exchange Unit, and the House of Commons Library. And finally, also consider joining the Knowledge Exchange Unit's informal Knowledge Mobilisers network and the House of Commons Library network. This is it for me, so we'll hand you back over to Laura now.
Thank you so much, Anne-Lise. Thank you. And also, we'd just like to thank all of you so much for taking part today. We are so very grateful for your time. We really hope that you found it useful. We would encourage you to email any questions that you've got that you'd like an answer to over to us, and we're happy to answer them if we haven't got to them in the session today. And it's been lovely to be with you all today. Thank you very much. We'll be in touch soon.